Angeles. Let's move to Boston, to the Karen Reed trial. Karen Reed on trial again for second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, fleeing the scene for the death of her boyfriend, Boston cop John O'Keefe. It's a riveting trial. It is so fascinating. Did an emotional, frankly, nutty little financial analyst girl from Boston run over her lover in a jealous rage with her car? Or did he get into a fight with another cop inside a house party full of cops and law enforcement dudes and their wives? And then all of them, dump his body onto the lawn and then blame her in a wide-ranging, intricate, highly populated conspiracy. It's one of the two. Joining us right now is Karen Reed's good friend, supporter, Nick Rocco. Nick's been on Court TV with Vinny Politan every night. You're doing a great, your Celtics hat, buddy. By the way, big one today. You need it. You're going out.
Know.
You want to fight about that first? Come on, Nick. You're talking to a born and raised New Yorker over here.
Yeah, well, with Jason Tatum being out, I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm sorry about that, actually. He's a great player. No one likes to see Tatum go down like that, but I got to say the Brunson burner looking good. But let's turn to Karen Reed, your great friend. You fundraised heavily to help her cause. You've been on this. By the way, you're kicking the shit out of these lawyers. On live television, you own a salon. This is a hairstylist who is beating up these lawyers. You know more than that. You should have been a lawyer. The defense is Alan Jackson, Karen's lawyers, bringing Brian Higgins into focus as a possible and, frankly, likely perpetrator of this crime. This video from the Waterfall bar at the end of the night, this is at the end of the night before they go to the house party at 34 Fairview. Look at this footage we're looking at if you're watching on YouTube. You got, they're all leaving to go to the party. You can see Brian Higgins is kind of dusting up a little bit. He's the one he's in the middle of all this, and he's kind of motioning towards the bar. It looks like at John O'Keefe going, yo, come outside, come outside. There he is in the sweatshirt. And he gets grabbed by the arm by Chris Albert, who is the brother of Brian Albert, who owned the home of the after party. He's going, yo, let's just get out of here. But you see, Higgins is irritated. He seems mad, and he's motioning at O'Keefe. And then later on, something goes down at the house. Had we seen that video in the first trial? That's new to me, I think.
So we did see it, but they didn't emphasize on that specific part of the video. And I saw on the bottom there, you got this clip from Microdots, and he has a great video called The Lead Up. And it breaks it down frame by frame of what's actually going on. And another important part of that video, and I had stated this on Court TV as well, is you see Brian Higgins pull Brian Albert aside 2 separate times to whisper something in his ear. Now, he's around friends and family inside that bar. So whatever he's saying to Brian Albert, he doesn't want anybody else to hear that. There's a reason why he pulls him, away from everyone. And then both of them turn around and they actually look in Karen and John's direction. And then in this video here, Chris Albert is grabbing the arm of Brian Higgins aggressively. He's not saying like, hey, buddy, we're heading out, we're leaving now. He's stopping him from doing something. Then he turns to his brother, Brian Albert, throws his hands up and goes, probably like, I'm trying to stop this. But you can see after 8 Jamesons, Brian Higgins is not in his right mind. He's probably upset that Karen Reed did not answer that text message, ignored him, didn't even say hi to him.
Yeah, he was texting her. She ghosted him. She ghosted Brian Higgins, right? And he was like, what's going on? Because remember, now Karen, had made the mistake in relationship with O'Keefe to have flirted with Brian Higgins, led him on a little bit, called him hot. No one's ever called Brian Higgins hot in his life. So all of a sudden she does that, and he's like wanting. So he, he's wanting to, I would assume, to, advance the relationship with Karen, who's cute. Let's be real. Well, and for him, an absolute 12. So he says, come to the house. And doesn't he texts John O'Keefe from the house? Are you coming? Are you coming? Meaning it looks to me, if all we're looking for is reasonable doubt and burden of proof, and that's all that needs to be proved here, that he's a pissed off guy looking to get into a fight. He's jealous.
So they arrive at the bar at around like real close to 11 at night. They arrive. Karen does not say a word to him. At 11:34, he sends that unwell text message and gets denied. No response again. And then they leave the bar around midnight. Now that text came into John O'Keefe at 12:20
So he
in the
texts.
morning.
Wait, he texts Karen from inside the bar while they're there, and she's not talking to him. Well, hello. Like, are you gonna?
Feet away from each other. He's looking at her at the bar, sends that text message. She doesn't even look at the phone. So now he's more upset. Then he leaves the bar at midnight. John O'Keefe's still at the bar. So John O'Keefe gets this text message at 12:20 a.m. At this point, Brian Higgins is at 34 Fairview Road. Now, he did not send any text message to John O'Keefe, leading up to that day to say, hey, you coming out with us tonight? But he specifically asked, are you coming back? Where are you? Are you coming here? Back to 34 Fairview. He didn't text Karen and ask that. And there's a reason why he didn't. Obviously, because she showed up with John, and maybe John would see that text message. I don't know. But I believe the motive there is not to necessarily lure him back to the house and commit murder, but I believe it was to confront him, and potentially, words were exchanged and a fight broke out.
This is not I don't think anyone thinks, this is a premeditated murder. I mean, Alec Baldwin never fired a gun to try and hurt the cinematographer on the movie set. There's no way that this guy was saying, let's bring him back and kill him. But something happened. There's blunt force trauma to the back of O'Keefe's head. This video certainly doesn't look good. Another thing that's very interesting is that, everybody departs around 12:30. Karen leaves at 12 in there. At 1:27 a.m., an hour after something goes down, this guy, or maybe 45 minutes later, this guy, Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, goes to the Canton Police Department. He goes there and he says, I'm just going because I got to move some vehicles. It's snowing. I need to move some vehicles. There's footage of him pulling into the parking lot. He never moves any vehicles. Do you imagine that this is to provide some alibi that, he was carrying on with, how could I have, hurt somebody this badly, killed somebody, and then go on with my regular duties of moving, cars and things? What do you make of that video there?
So his initial testimony was he shows up to 34 Fairview Road, and they didn't have any Jameson. They only had beer. So he left. He went to the Canton PD, and he said he only stayed for a short amount of time. So if that were the case, and say a short amount of time, he's there from around 12 o'clock, say he stays until 12:45, the Canton Police Department is only 5 minutes down the road. Doesn't take 27 to 40 minutes to get to the Canton PD. So where was he in that specific time? I believe he was still at the 34 Fairview Road. So now let's fast forward. He arrives there at 1:27 in the morning. We see him outside around 1:36 in the morning. He claims in the last trial that he arrived home in West Roxbury at 1:45 in the morning. There is absolutely no way he got from Canton to West Roxbury in 9 minutes. It didn't happen.
Not in the snow, and it's too far. How many miles is that?
It's at least a 15, 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
So then he claims he goes home and he passes out on the couch and he butt dial back to Brian Albert.
Their butts were in heavy communication at 2:30 in the morning, just butt to butt. My butt called you, your butt called me back. And then, but even on that video and the light, he's walking around on the phone. So he's constantly on the phone at 1:30 in the morning, and then at 2:30 in the morning, he's back on the phone. I think Brian Higgins has got a huge problem. This is starting to turn in a major way. Now, he's not on trial. So this is just about getting Karen, off.
Right. But don't forget, during Yuri Buchanan's testimony, Alan Jackson pointed out the fact that when they actually went to go interview Brian Higgins, it was at Brian Higgins' lawyer's office. So why do all these witnesses have lawyers? All of them have lawyers, every single one of them.
Yeah.
If you were just an innocent witness and you saw a crime happen, you don't need a lawyer. All you got to do is tell the truth, what you saw or what you didn't see. But they all know, their stories have changed, and they wanted to make sure they had protection. It just doesn't add up to me. The fact of an innocent witness having a lawyer, it doesn't add up.
We are live on TuneIn and live on YouTube right now. We're talking to Nick Rocco, who is a good friend of Karen Reed, and he is really an unpaid lawyer. The man actually owns a hair salon, but is one of the finest legal minds we have working in America today. Everything is so organized. You're so clear and succinct. It's unbelievable. We're going to Steve here in our control room. We got some comments from the chat here on YouTube right now.
First up, Nick, go Celtics. Thank you very much.
Shut up,
Boston
Steve.
to Boston.
Shut up.
All right. Secondly, I thought this was good timing from Cindish. She says, what does Nick think is the best evidence in Karen's innocence and defense?
The best evidence.
I would say the autopsy photos. I mean, you have
The teeth marks on the arm?
Yeah, you just look at the arm and they're so perpendicular. And the fact that a taillight is made out of polycarbonate, which does not explode. It does not shatter. It's shatterproof. You get into a car accident, someone hits the back of your car, you might have that taillight, break into like 2, 3, 4 big chunks of pieces, not 47 pieces scattered across a lawn. Which is
interesting, Nick. You actually raise an amazing point, because in this case, there is an appalling amount of tampered with evidence. And you mentioned the taillight. I mean, there's the Sallyport garage, which is where the Massachusetts State Police are looking at Karen's car, and there's 42 minutes of tape missing from when Michael Proctor, who was the lead investigator at the time, is back he's back at the rear of the car. First, the video was presented reversed, so it looked like he was back on the driver's side. Then they said, wait, this video is backwards, and they put it the right way. And sure enough, he's back by the rear taillight, and 42 minutes of him back there is missing, which is maybe how you get from a couple of chunks of a taillight to shattered pieces.
Yeah. Another big issue is the hair on the bumper. They want us to believe that a piece of hair stayed on a tow truck over a 30-minute drive in a blizzard that was not attached to anything, stayed on the vehicle. And then today, Bob Alessi points out 2 pictures that were taken of that piece of hair, and one of them is curled, the other one is straight, but it's the same piece of hair it's just 2 different photos of it. So now how does that piece of hair move just by taking a picture of it?
Forensic and then one of the legal mind, Nick Rocco. What do you do? And you would know the hair, too. You run a hair salon, so you can tell a curl and a straight.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. The biggest missing the tampered with evidence has 4 legs. The dog. Yeah. They owned the dog for 6 years in this home. The dog who may have put, these giant dog teeth clawing marks on his arm. I can't see how a car could leave that on somebody's arm. But the dog they've had it for 6 years. This dog, Chloe, they rehome the dog after this. Who does that to a dog after 6 years?
So they rehome the dog to this woman in Vermont. And then that woman went and rehomed it to somebody else, which the state police will not tell the defense team who the new owner is, where the address is of the new owner, and then also the owner's phone number for them to contact the person with the dog. So, when Hank Brennan was in court saying, well, you could go out and take teeth impressions, you don't want to see the dog, they physically can't because they don't know exactly where the dog is because the state won't tell them.
This is unbelievable. The developments are good. All eyes are really zooming in on Brian Higgins. Something went down there, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if there's, Karen's going to get set free. I think Karen's, mistrial maybe, but likely, the last time the jury was unanimous on 2 of the 3 counts. She might be unanimous on 3 of them and throw it out. Then it'd be interesting. Does it turn around and does a whole new trial begin? Because that would have to come from John O'Keefe's family, and I don't know why they're not paying attention to all of this, or they have blinders on. They're with the police. This is the tightest unit ever, including a mother whose son might have been taken by his brothers.
Yeah. One other big point to really focus on is the fact that every single piece of taillight that was found at the scene had no DNA from John O'Keefe on it. The only DNA of John O'Keefe that was found on that taillight was the piece of taillight that was still attached to the vehicle. But there was no blood, no DNA on those taillight pieces that were found on the lawn.
Nick, I hope the Boston Celtics lose tonight and the Knicks advance. You guys had a beautiful championship last year, and I'm sorry about Jason Tatum. I love your hat, love you representing, but I don't think it looks so good. And I think you know
We'll
that.
see what happens.
I do think you know that. You're great, man. I
We-
really appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
There he goes, Nick Rocco. He's on Court TV nightly. Does a great job. Watch him kick the crap out of like real lawyers. And better. I think if something happens to me, I might get that guy to represent me. Whew. And the best Boston accent. I love a Boston accent so much, and his is pure.